Yeah, this is another episode of the Round Circle with your host, the Fifth General, with Cinema Escapes and Zacchaeus. What's up? What's good? What's good, y'all?
What's good?
What's good?
Yeah, good to be here. It's good to be here. Bless.
All right, so a lot has been happening in this month of June, and we're gonna continue the fight, the civil rights movement, another civil rights movement that we're in. It will always be a civil rights movement for black people because we constantly have to fight for our rights, and our rights are human rights. You know, before anything else, black people have always been fighting for human rights because that's what civil rights is. And the fact that black folks have been fighting for this for so long, I mean, just goes to show you that we have a long way to go. I don't want to wait another 60 years, man. I'm tired of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about addressing this hashtag of defund the police. We're going to talk about real defunding. And the reason why defunding has been spoken up is because a lot of these programs need to go to social programs and community programs to help some of the disenfranchised and disproportionate things that negatively impact communities when they defunded education and stuff like that. They do it all the time. Nobody says anything. You know, they've always defunded the arts. Always. That's always happened.
Always, yeah.
That's why you don't have after school. That's why in a lot of cities you don't have after school programs anymore. They're non-existent. These were the things that kept kids out of trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Music programs.
Say it again.
Music programs.
Music, food,
of course,
food,
all the art,
right? Food,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, there are school districts that don't have free lunch. So not all, because some people will say, "Well, where I'm from, we have free lunch." That ain't everywhere. That's not everywhere.
It ain't.
You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
So
Right,
you know,
right.
we're gonna address that. So I'm gonna let my brother Wayne, Zacchaeus, that is, speak on the situation. Before I get into it, there's a clip that's going viral with the police union of New York. You know, he was like saying, "You know what? I'll let it speak for itself."
I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. But you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and bugs and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Okay. So, Zacchaeus, I need you to speak to that clip right there because I think that man was obviously sounds like he's upset and his feelings is hurt. I mean, but you know, if he's a good, if he just so happens to be a good cop and he's not a bad apple, then he has nothing to worry about. I mean, he's in a blue uniform 40 hours a week. Meanwhile, Black and Latino citizens are what they are, 7 days a week, 24/7, 365. So it should not be compared. Those struggles are not the same. So when they say stuff like Blue Lives Matter, I mean, we don't want cops getting killed, but at the same time, we don't want cops getting away with killing us. So Zach, can you speak to that?
Well, the only thing I gotta say is that with that now, I seen the clip, like I seen the clip on Twitter, and I'm saying to myself, all we asking for is for civil rights. We've been asking that civil rights since we came on this land. Civil rights. That's all we've been fighting for. Yeah. First of all, now he's talking about with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Did you show dignity? Did you show dignity when Rashad Brooks was killed, and George Floyd was killed, and Aubrey was killed, and our brothers and sisters that was in
Breonna Taylor
was killed. Yeah, and Breonna Taylor was killed. Was they show dignity and respect?
Absolutely not.
Kill him? Yeah. So he has the. I mean, listen. We're not saying everyone. There's some bad apples on the force. Yes, there is true. We're not saying all officers are bad, but we're just saying that the ones that are the bad apples need to learn some dignity and respect. Because first of all, we won't be protesting. If it was dignity and respect, it'd be no need for protesting.
Absolutely.
If it was dignity and respect, we won't be still fighting for civil rights in 2020.
Absolutely.
You know? So he comes off dignity and respect. Do you show dignity and respect to Black and Latinos? When we're walking on the street and we're in the store trying to get something, and we're sitting in a parking lot, or we're just minding our business, and all of a sudden, whoop whoop whoop, you come, and you throw us down, and you oh, I'm sorry about that, sir. Lock it, and you throw handcuffs because you said, oh, I'm putting the handcuffs on you because I'm a little bit nervous. So this is just for our protection. Is that dignity and respect? Is that dignity and respect?
Mm-mm.
No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
So you talk about dignity and respect. How about dignity and respect for the fellow citizens?
Mm-hmm.
People are not just black. People are afraid of cops, though. I mean, you have some white young folks that are afraid of cops too. They're afraid of cops. So we talk about dignity. Show us some dignity and respect. How about showing your fellow citizens some dignity and respect, sir?
Exactly.
Okay.
How many times have I heard a young brother or sister say, "Stop treating us like animals and thugs"? I mean, police are civil servants, period. They should not be doing everything without any accountability. On my job, on your job, if you do something that is against your standard of procedures, then what happens? You get disciplined for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You shouldn't talk about dignity and respect. There was a lady, I think it was last month, by the Barclays Center, because she wasn't wearing a mask. She was in a subway station. You lived in New York City Fifth. You lived in New York City Fifth and Cinema. You lived in New York City, and you've seen how hot the subway station is. You know that. Yeah. Y'all know that because you're from New York. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the subway station, and in the summertime, it is hard to breathe.
Blazing.
It's a sauna.
Yeah.
So you walk down the subway station, and she's walking with her 5-year-old daughter, and all of a sudden, now police officers are, screaming at her to put on ordering her to wear her mask. No, she did have a mask underneath her chin. She didn't put her. Maybe she's walking up the steps, and sometimes people have a tough time breathing with the mask on in the subway station, because there's no ventilation. It's very humid, and it's like a sauna in the subway station when it's 90 degrees and when it's 80 degrees. Now, the cops came. They asked her to put her in, but she didn't put on her mask. She said, "I'm too hot." They grabbed her. They threw her down on the pavement in front of her child, in front of her 5-year-old child. Of course, the 5-year-old child was startled. And they were screaming at her. They handcuffed her. They threw her on the pavement. 5 cops. So when this lieutenant or captain talk about dignity and respect, where's the dignity and respect for the citizens?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? Don't talk about dignity and respect, and you're not giving. I can understand if you're giving us dignity and respect. I can understand that.
Right.
But if you're not giving us dignity and respect, then you're not showing dignity and respect to us. So why should we show it to you? Now, I'm not saying that we disregard our authority. We're just saying that we're not showing dignity and respect, and you're talking about dignity and respect to the officers. So, sir, I don't want to sound like Charlie Man the God, but. I ain't gonna say it anyway, but
Oh, I'll say it. Shut the heck up forever.
Thank you, Fifth.
All right. So, Cinema, I got to ask you this question, and you could take all the time you need because I need to get you in on this one. The whole point of this whole episode is about what real police reform looks like, not that fake reform when they say, "Oh, we're gonna get you guys more training." All that does is give police forces more money. That's all. And basically still have the same race-sold white supremacists and suspected white supremacists, race soldiers in cop uniforms. It just keeps them on the force. That's all it does. So let's talk about. So, Cinema, what would be your idea of real police reform?
Quite honestly, you'd have to change the whole mentality. There's a lot of things that I don't even want to talk about when it comes to this, because the fact is this: they're trained a certain way. We've dealt with this. They want to talk. It's New York. They want to talk. We ain't killed nobody. Eric Garner's family doesn't feel that way, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, defund all that riot, not all that military grade gear. Why does beat cops need grenade launchers?
See?
Speak on it.
It's like, hold on. It's like, it's a lot of things. It's almost overwhelming, because the whole thing is you deal with stop and frisk, the way it's trained, and how the police target people. If you're slouched in your car, you're black, have hip hop music, and have on a cap, you're getting pulled over.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the
Facts.
stereotype that they have. You have to go into training. You have to go into what do they have, and why do they have things unnecessary, and why are you using techniques from other countries, which I won't even get into. Some police forces use training tapes from overseas on subduing people, when those other countries, they put knees on necks and then backs.
Mm-hmm.
What is the source of your curriculum? Number one, there's no consistency nationwide. And then if you're in the wrong town and you're black, where there's no black population, there's no recourse.
Speak on it.
Number one, all this funding's going into all this stuff. Okay. Why are there cameras around every New York City project and a portable police station?
Speak on it. Yeah.
I mean, I go visit my friend in Stapleton on Staten Island, where hardly nothing ain't going. Things happen, but not on the scale of the rest of the city. And it's like the projects are already a police state,
Yeah.
Growing up in West Brighton, I had the police in my building, and I've seen a lot of things. And that's when Staten Island was mostly trees. So, the core of their training, the core of the philosophy, and why do you have this equipment and what do you need it for? Okay, if we, make a counter-terrorism unit that uses that equipment if that's necessary. Why are beat cops walking around, they always have shields and stuff readily available and tanks, over in Missouri, a few years ago, the police came out in force, So you have to, when and for people who don't know what defunding is, education gets it all the time. I was a teacher. And so basically defunding is taking funds from one area and redistributing them somewhere else, redistributing and repurposing them somewhere else. So education always takes the hit, especially in urban areas.
Yeah.
Like even when I wasn't teaching doing after school, kids are bringing home Xerox copies. They never got books.
See?
They never got the things they needed. And so in the after school, we used to have to do things to help them catch up. And then when we tried to do a school, that's a whole nother story. I don't even want to get into. So when you've taken from education and everywhere else to fund this police behavior, to give them all this extra equipment for what? Like in New York, you had the plainclothes units where you couldn't tell the cops from each other. And at some points, cops are shooting each other.
Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
Why? What is the purpose of this? These things are just a waste of money. Why do you have a grenade launcher? This is not a war zone. I mean, 9/11 brought military grade weapons and stuff into their hands nationwide. Before that would buy in the imprisonment, so they had to arrest people, and get the numbers up into the prisons. So a lot of what makes them money, with the privatization of, the prison system, what the cops do go hand in hand with that. Remember in New York, 3 strikes. They were trying to get every black person to have the 3 strikes because 3 offenses, you're gone,
Yeah, 1994, 95,
that's from the crime
94.
Bill. Yeah, that's from the crime bill.
Yeah.
But all of these things give them the gusto to treat us the way they treat us. And you got to defund those things, those programs, and keep funded the basic things you need. Beat cops, the respond cops, the people, answer the call, the precincts. Those, that's what needs to be funded. All this stuff, all this extra stuff that they don't really need, why, why are you walking, why is a beat cop have military grade ammo and armor in his trunk?
Look, I get ready for war.
Right. He could pop his trunk in a neighborhood and be kitted out like military on a kid who doesn't even have a gun.
Yeah. Tamir Rice.
And there's a lot more to that. I'm just going over, just general things. But it's like when everyone's like, oh, you can't defund them. And I'm like, you know how many programs have been defunded? Healthcare has been defunded for police.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, when they hear words like defund, because they've never heard defund when it comes to the police, they've always heard cuts, and we're going to cut for this one, we're going to cut for that one. God forbid you defund the police. When people say defund, other people hear dismantle or take away their pay. Right. That's not what it is. What it is that you're not going to continue to do wrong by the people of the streets and then still continue to get billions or more dollars from the federal government. That's not going to happen. That's the whole point of whole defunding. But my whole thing is more so about holding them accountable by law. So let's get into some policies. So we have police.
Number one.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Cinema.
Number one, you need an organization that's not part of the police. You can't even have IA is not even dependable.
Heck no.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Because you got the silent code. Because the whole reason the bad apples survive is because of the silence. And that's why we have that code of the streets. We're not going to give you up because you have that code. We have our code. And we don't even care about, because we know you're against us. And it's like, it's crazy. Number one, they violate so many people's rights, just point blank. Just watch 10 viral videos from this week.
Yeah, alone. Yes.
You don't even have to go back about how people's rights are violated because the cop does that because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows that his word will believe over you. And it's like, if we didn't have cell phones, it's like when we didn't have cell phones and stuff, people got sent away and got railroaded, like the exonerated 5. They got railroaded because, there was no evidence till you got DNA and all that stuff coming out. So, number one, the way they are in a community is everything, because, kids fear them. They're not, they're here to, their whole thing is we're here to protect and serve. But who are you serving? They're self-serving. They're not serving the community. And they harass people in the community. And then, the
light is not shining on them right now, because it's a situation where now you're hearing young people, this generation is not really picking up cops so much because of all the things that go along with when it comes to being a law enforcement. Now law enforcement now it's like considered like they lost their respect, because he talked about the brethren, talk about the guy captain talk about respect. They lost the respect when you have to sit, beating people up for not wearing a mask. You lost your respect when you put your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. You lost your respect when you're gonna shoot into a home of Breonna Taylor. You're gonna shoot into a home and just randomly shooting. You lost your respect when Batum Jean was sitting in his house. You bust into the house and shot him. He's sitting out eating his ice cream in his own apartment. You didn't ask questions. You didn't even announce yourself. So he talked about respect. Where is the respect for the citizens?
Well, let's can't say crap.
Let's get into some policy.
41 shots.
Now, real quick, Zacchaeus, I'm gonna let you do this, but let's get into some policy to help this go. So, police reform is real police reform is legislation. Not we train you to be to not be racist when you're still gonna be racist every time you do something. We hear this all the time when police brutality happens and somebody dies. Oh, we need police reform. I'm tired of hearing that. Okay? So let's get into the proposals that the Democrats are proposing and the Republicans. So the Democrats are wanting to ban chokeholds. The Republicans are wanting to desincentivizes chokehold use, meaning that it's going to be up to the discretion of what the local policing believes was a reasonable means to do the chokehold. The Democrats want to end absolute qualified immunity. The Republicans don't want to have any changes to qualified immunity. Qualified immunity means that say something happens and now you want to sue the police. It makes it very hard for you to do that and to hold a police officer accountable because of that. Democrats, no new funding for policing. Republicans adds new funding for policing. Democrats bans no-knock warrants. Republicans does not ban no-knock warrants. The reason why the no-knock warrant situation came up is because of what happened to Breonna Taylor. But if you ask me, that no-knock warrant should have been brought up a long time ago. Because what happened to Breonna Taylor, like we said on the other show, happened to Fred Hampton. Now, I'm going to get into a clip because, Cinema, you mentioned the bad apples. So let's talk about some good apples. And to me, a good apple is a one who stands up, because a lot of the good apples are not allowed to stand up and say anything because they're afraid they'll lose their job. And if you're going to just let stuff happen, then how can I still call you call you a good apple when you just sat idly by and let stuff happen? Let's get into what these cops. Let's get into these cops from what New York was saying on NYPD. Let's go to it.
They tell you this to your face. Black Hispanics between 14 to 21. They must get stopped.
At the end of the month, these officers, whoever don't have that arrest or those few summonses, they're pressured to find something. You might not see nothing. You're supposed to be visible. You might not see anything, but you go hunting, like bounty hunting for an arrest, locking up some old guy, some homeless guy, finding somebody who's riding a bicycle on the sidewalk, who's spitting, and you bring him in.
The problem is when you go hunting, when you put any type of numbers on a police officer to perform, we are going to go to the most vulnerable.
the most vulnerable?
Of course, we're gonna go to LGBT community. We're gonna go to the black community. We're gonna go to those people that have no vote, that have no power. If we start doing what we're doing in Midtown Manhattan, a phone call to the mayor's office is gonna be made. That's gonna be the end of it.
We're the predators, they're the prey. The worst thing you can have is a police officer that needs an arrest for the month.
So you're all minorities. How does that make you feel?
It's horrible.
This is something coming from the top that trickles its way down, and this is why we're all here today.
Okay. Zacchaeus, please speak to that.
Let me tell you something. That was a clip that was a few years ago, but
Yes,
it's still relevant.
old, but it's right. It's still relevant.
It's still relevant because this is true. When you have no power, when you have no backup, meaning that a lot of us are poor, a lot of us don't have backup, a lot of us don't have the economic standing. We don't have the power. We're picked upon. That's why they can. That's why the officers are able to be. That's why they're able to have towers, portable stations in the neighborhood, and swarm a neighborhood on every little thing that we do. Why? Because we don't have the backing. Like we don't have the backing like the elite have the backing, or Midtown Manhattan have the backing. We don't have that. So therefore, we're easy pickings. We're prey, and we're prey, and they're the hunt. No, we're the hunt, and they're we're always the prey. So therefore, we as a community gotta band together and do something, because the thing is that we're always gonna be the prey. Because the thing is that when you because I could talk on this because I experienced this many times growing up in New York City, Staten Island, and I can speak on it, because when it comes to, I'll never forget this happened to me twice growing up in my neighborhood, where under the plain dress police officers empty your backpacks on the street and walking on the street. Coming off the bus, coming from school, it's 2:30 in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Walking, and next thing you know, 2 cops are grabbing my backpack off the back. This is 1990 and 1991. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're grabbing me, and you're emptying my backpacks on the street.
How old were
Everything
you then? Let the audience know how old were you back in that time.
I had to be no older than, let me see, I was in high school, so I had to be no older than, I was like maybe about 13, 14. Maybe about 15.
Okay.
15 years old.
All right,
I was 15. 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm like, I don't understand. I didn't do anything. Or look like you're carrying a concealed weapon. No, I'm coming from school. So everybody's seeing that these officers are emptying just grabbing my backpack, grabbing me, taking out the backpack, and just throwing my stuff on just randomly, just emptying literally just emptying my backpack like they're emptying a garbage, like they're emptying a garbage pail into the sanitation truck on the street. So I'm like saying to myself, I'm like, oh, what did I do? So when it comes to stuff like this, it's like we don't know. We don't, because the young people, young kids, teenagers, young black kids, we don't know our rights. So we don't know our rights. So therefore, they're easy pickings. They're able to do these things to us and get away with it. Even if you say, okay, I'm going to take your badge number down. At that time, when I was growing up, of course, nobody had no cell phones. So we had no cell phones at the time. But at that time, it was easy pickings. They had the van that used to come around, the black van, I remember.
Yeah,
and
that black van.
And I remember sitting in that van, just scared. I didn't know what was going to go on. I'm sitting and we walking. I'm coming to my friend, walking in the friend's house. Now I lived in that community where it's called Jersey Street on Staten Island. Now I'm walking on the street. We walk, me and 2 other guys, 2 friends of mine, walking that group from high school, walking on where we grew up. We walking on the street. Next thing you know, I'm like, why are they pushing us against the gate in front of a store? Now, again, mind you, it's the summertime. It's 8 o'clock at night. It's summertime. It's still a little bright outside. But these are coming, and they just, I'm looking at the black van, but I'm not really paying it. We're not really paying attention. We're talking. We're not really paying attention to the black van. They jumped out the black van, and next thing you know, we're being pushed against the gate in front of the store, the bodega, they call it, the bodega. And we're getting handcuffed, and we're getting pushed in the van. I'm like, what's going on? No, at that night I was scared. I'll never forget that night. I'm this age now, but I'll never forget that night. These are the things that we experience as black people growing up in our community. No, you want to ramble about respect. This is a lot of disrespect towards us in our community. Because the thing is that we have no backup, we have no power. We have no, and it's like what the officer said in the audio. It said we're pressured, we're pushed, because the police officers like to say we're all blue. But guess what? When I take off that uniform, I'm not blue anymore. I'm black. So I put on the uniform. You want me to program my mind to say, okay, go into that neighborhood, and remember the code is not to go against each other. This is why the officers that you see that during the George Floyd situation, the officers just stood by. There is an Asian officer just stood by, and he just seen everything happen. Looking at the crowd, he's not doing anything because there's a certain code that these officers have to go into the neighborhood and we're all in blue. We even if my fellow officer, my partner is doing wrong, I'm gonna just stand by and just let it happen, because we're not supposed to go against each other, even if it's wrong. We have a code to follow. We don't go against each other. We just stood together, and we also are, and as officers, black and Latino officers, you are just blue, and we are allowed to go into our neighborhoods, and we have no power, and we see that you're doing wrong, but we just stay by the code and we just allow it to happen. This is what we're faced with all the time, So it's like, when I listen to that audio of this officers talking, the black and Latino officers talking, I say to myself, I'm like, yeah, it is we don't know everything what's going on within the police departments, but that audio, I truly believe that really happens, that we really they're really pressured to go into certain neighborhoods, to go into the minority neighborhoods, to go into the lesbian and gay neighborhoods and just harass and just do what they want to do because you have no back and you have no power, and they get away with it. So that's my take on this thing, man. It's really you have to experience it. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to experience it. To experience it, I know what those officers are talking about, man. And we as people, we understand that. Listen, you go into these neighborhoods, and you have nothing to do, but you follow. I'm driving. You pull me over. My music is a little loud, but you pull me over. You take me out the car. You ransack the car. You open up the trunk. Tell me what's in the. Open up the trunk. Happened to me in New Jersey, in Plainfield, New Jersey, that night, back in 2003. Open up the trunk. Everything is empty in the car. I don't know, officers, I'm driving normal speed, and then all of a sudden now I'm being stopped. I'm going home, I'm being stopped, and you ransack my car. These are the situations that we face as black people growing up in America. So this is what we face. So I could understand what these officers are saying, definitely, for sure.
Well, look, it just goes to show, and I'm going to give it to Cinema 1 second. It just goes to show that being a police officer, what you would call a good apple, is hard to be. But on any other job, you would be held accountable. You never hear conversations about bad apples continue to be doctors and hospitals. Do you? No. You don't hear situations about bad apples in public school and public school systems and stuff like that. You don't hear those conversations. You know why? Because that's not allowed. You cannot have someone in the police force or any other. You can't have someone just do whatever they want and have everything just happen as if nothing's wrong. Just like any other job, if a doctor was to perform malpractice on someone, they would be fired and put in prison depending on what they did. But it's so hard to hold a police officer accountable. We need to kind of go a little, we need to switch some gears, but still staying on police. We need to talk about Rayshard Brooks right now. Here's the thing. Here's a situation with his case. His is not so cut and dry like what happened to George Floyd. I mean, there's no beating around what happened to George Floyd, although there are still people out there saying he resisted arrest when he didn't, because there's countless videos of George Floyd not resisting arrest at all, cooperating. Let's talk about Rayshard. Rayshard did resist arrest after talking with the police for 20 to 30 minutes, pulled them over. Well, no, I'm sorry. They didn't pull him over. They got a call. He was fell asleep in the driveway at a Wendy's, a crowded Wendy's, by the way. I'm going to get to why I said crowded. They pulled him to the side. Well, they told him to pull over to the side. You man falls asleep again. Pulled him, so he drives over to the side, parks. The police talk to him. He complies with a pat-down search to make sure he doesn't have any guns on him or anything, any weapons. They talk with him, see where his mental is. They do a sobriety test on him. He failed it, so it appears that he was drinking. It appears based off the sobriety test, because they was talking with the man, and I guess they must have smelled something on his breath. I don't know, but that's why they did the test. Talk with him. He told him exactly where he was gonna go to his daughter's thing. He said his sister lived nearby. He was going to walk home. They have his ID and all of his information in hand. They did not Mirandize him when they tried to say that he was under arrest. Yes, there was a struggle between them. The main motivation, I believe, that Rayshard Brooks got into the scuffle, well, he already resisted, right? You could see him not wanting to be, because he doesn't know he's being arrested. He doesn't know what's going on, and I'm pretty sure he's has PTSD kicked in, because he done seen countless videos, or by his own site, police doing brothers like us wrong. So his whole thing, he went into survival mode. As he's in the scuffle in the video, you have to watch it very slowly. It appears that one of the officers is trying to put him into a chokehold. When one of the officers appeared to put him in a chokehold, he is able to reach for one of the police officers' taser. He takes the taser. He pushes off one of the cops. He runs. He's running, by the way. One angle shows him running, pointing back with the taser, and shooting it. As you will see, the officer who was closest to him discharges his firearm 4 times, or 3 to 4 times, it looks like. Shoots him in the back while running. Another video had surfaced of the Wendy's camera. The Wendy's camera was able to show the police officer was already reaching for his firearm after he discharged his taser and missed Rayshard. Then Rayshard turned back and shot the taser, missed. Now, the shots that came out of the officer that shot him, he shot into a driveway where there were cars parked. One of the bullets that came from the gun hit a car with a family with kids. So he was shooting recklessly. The DA said that within more of the video footage, the cop kicks Rayshard's dead body while he's bleeding to death. Kicks him 2 to 3 times. The other officer stands on the body of Rayshard's shoulders because he said, "Oh, well, we just want to make sure he doesn't have a deadly weapon," where you already did a pat-down search on him. You know he don't have it. And also, a taser is not a reloadable weapon unless you have the cartridge. He didn't have that. So he still deserved to have his life. We have seen countless videos of people who are non-black who resist arrest every day. whether it be with deadly force or non-lethal force, and they happen to tell their story the next day because they survived. So Rayshard Brooks still should have had his life. Cinema Escapes, can you please speak to that? Cinema.
I don't even know what to say. it's like I just watched a video of a white guy swinging a knife, a deadly weapon.
Oh, Lord.
In the vicinity of the police, could have cut the cop's neck. Subdued people with guns. And everyone wants to say the resist thing, but the whole thing is, once that thing discharged, he was unarmed.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only one shot unless you have a cartridge, and you ain't gonna have time to reload in that situation, even if you do have another cartridge.
And real quick, just to kind of help this along, remember in the video, Slow Down, the officer, after he discharged his taser and missed, was already reaching for his gun because he had intentions on shooting him because, he done got, he was some punk behind cop and was like, oh no, I got to kill this man because I ain't about to go back to the precinct and telling them that I done got my behind beat by a dude who was drunk. He ain't get beat, but the point I'm making is that was his pride shooting him. And after he killed him, he said, we got him. No, I got him.
It may be history because Rayshawn had got out of prison. He had been interviewed.
Yep.
There's an interview out there in his own words about prison reform and how they, he didn't have any options and they were already, watching him. So, he was targeted. And it's like, I'm like, if you're sleeping in a car because you had a drink and you're not driving, you pulled over.
Right.
That's like pulling over on the side of the road because you were sleepy.
Right.
And you didn't want to continue to operate the vehicle because it's dangerous. So I'll go to a public place and park because I'm not going to make it. And so they didn't find him operating the vehicle. They didn't find him, they interviewed him. They patted him down and just,
Let me ask a question. Did one of the workers inside of Wendy's, one of the girls I heard called the police.
Just like Starbucks.
Yeah, she called the police and said that this guy is sleeping in the drive-through.
Blocking the driveway.
I think he was
right.
Yeah, he's sleeping in the drive-through. So the cops responded. The cops came and responded, and next thing you know, they knock on the I guess they knock on his glass window, the car window, and then when they tried to ask him questions, it seemed like they were talking normally. Everything was talking. It seemed like he was cooperating. But from that point on, how did it elevate to that? Because the thing is, they don't show. I heard the audio of them talking, conversing with the police, but I don't see how it escalated into him tussling because the officers had to get hostile with him because I can't see how
they don't get passed out. They're just like, we're taking you in, take you a test. It does 80% of the time. It's no real escalation. There's no real animosity toward them, and it's like. You could tell the difference. Like, you could tell how a police officer walks up to you, whether, what you need to do. Because if they're just, like I had a traffic thing here in Newark, I don't have a problem. But when I had mine in Newcastle, the body language was totally different. So I had to, I had to be on my P's and Q's. But in Newark, it wasn't a problem. I had my stuff ready. Oh, okay. Told me what I did, went there, filled up the thing, gave me what I had, and it was just a normal thing. It's like some, if somebody has a chip on their shoulder before they get to you, there's nothing you can really do about it. And that's the problem. It's like, you're talking about solutions. You should have 1 week on the street and a week off so you could decompress if you want a real solution. Because if you're doing that day after day pressure situations, and I understand you're going into something you don't know the unknown, but where it is known and you've established something, you're still acting like it's the unknown. That's a problem. If I establish I don't have a weapon, I don't, these things are established. But that your first reaction is when you miss with the taser, I'm shooting you down instead of chasing you and subduing you when you're not even that far.
Well, you can't kill a cop because you can't catch him. And I actually have something to read because I actually have the Atlanta law. Sorry, not Atlanta, but Georgia law for use of deadly force law. Now, let me read it real quick. This is state code. Georgia's law for use of deadly force, state code 17420. Y'all could look, audience, you could look this up. Peace officers may use deadly force to apprehend a suspected felon only when the officer reasonably believes that the suspect possesses a deadly weapon or any object, device, or instrument which, when used offensively against a person, is likely to or actually does result in serious bodily injury. When the officer reasonably believes that the suspect poses an immediate threat of physical violence to the other officer or others, or when there is probable cause to believe that the suspect has committed a crime involving the infliction or threatening infliction of serious physical harm. Now, does that follow into everything that happened to the situation with those two police officers with Rayshard Brooks? Not entirely, because number one, there was no call about Brooks even doing a crime. It's not a crime for sitting in your parking lot. A drivable offense, drinking driving is, but it's not a felon. But the thing is, he wasn't drinking and driving in the sense of they pulled him over while he was driving. He was already parked, per se. His car wasn't moving. You pulled him to the side. You did the pat down on him, so you know he didn't have a weapon. So this is why the main officer who killed him has an actual murder charge. And the reason why he has a murder charge and a charge on top of that is because of what he did after he killed Rayshard Brooks. You're kicking the body, you're stepping on the body, you're doing all this with the body. How dare you? And you shot in a crowded parking lot. Crowded. You don't do that.
Hey, it's like I've seen shootouts in New York, and the cops haven't, you don't shoot into the crowd. They wait until you have a clear, you got public safety is supposed to be first.
Exactly.
And
You could have shot a kid. You could have shot anybody in that crowd.
Number one, he didn't scream, "Get down," because that's what happened when I'm in Manhattan. And the police said, "Everybody get down." We get down. Now the line of sight is clear for them to subdue the person. No warning to anybody. You just pulled your gun like a gunslinger and fired off. Like it's the Wild Wild West. But this is the mentality you're dealing with. And somebody said something, I'm not going to say that on air. I'll say that off air. But, the point is you have a law and this situation doesn't fit it. Okay, you had a little struggle, but he ran. He broke free and ran. He didn't continue to accost the officer. He fought to free himself and run. If you're that close, you're supposed to give chase,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to give chase. I'm just gonna shoot him down. Then I'm gonna kick the body.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying?
He should have been. Yeah.
How far is he getting? Your officer in better peak shape. You can call for backup. He's running. Here's his description. Nah, you don't do any of that. You pull
your gun.
You mix the taser and you pull your gun and you shoot live rounds where it could have hurt an innocent person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to think about that. So, and you got to, what makes you think you can do that? Just because you're an officer, You put other people at risk, children,
Danger, danger.
You put people in danger who had nothing to do with it, and a dude who no longer was armed, he did his one, and then that was it. And basically the bullets entered the back. That's the mentality you're dealing with that people don't want to see. And it's like, if people are filming and you see that with filming, what's happening when the cameras are off? Ice Cube made a song in the 90s, Who Got the Camera? And then the resolution was, it doesn't matter if you got a camera. Who got my 9? Who got my 9? You done did it this time. Who the bleep got my 9? That's that album with Tear This MF about the riots, I'm censoring it because I'm not gonna say those words. But you know what I'm saying. Wicked and all that stuff. That album was about the riots and the police brutality in LA. This is the 90s. We're in the 2020s. And that album's more relevant now than it was then. And it was super relevant then.
Wow. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's The Predator. If you want to go back and listen to Ice Cube, not plugging it, he ain't even paying me to plug it. But it's one, he speaks about a lot of that stuff, community and stuff. He's always has. So when people are shocked him saying now, I'm like, you've never heard his music? All you know is him going after NWA, but also on that album with, that is I Want to Kill Sam and all that, talking about the oppression in America. He's spoken about it a lot. Common spoken about it a lot. And then how is something they've made back then more relevant today with more technology, supposedly more tolerance and understanding, and all that stuff, and all that bull crap they try to force feed us when it's not even true, when it seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, see?
Because they've gotten away. And when you don't hold them accountable and they get away, they get worse. Yeah. And like I said earlier on the show, if you keep letting them get away with us, one day they're going to come and do it to you. But you're going to care. But then that day, it's too late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Real talk.
Yeah. So, martial law.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's crazy because it's like what Michael Shea was saying. We're not even, we weren't saying Black Power. We're just saying matter. And you can't even agree that we matter.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you see T-shirts like Blue Lives Matter. You see T-shirts like We Matter Too. You see T-shirts like all of us matter. We're not saying that you don't matter, but we're not. They act like when we say Black Lives Matter, they act like we're like. Listen, we're not saying that y'all don't matter. We're not saying that. We're saying that our lives are precious too.
It's completely.
That's what we're saying.
It's completely asinine because they're acting like people are killing cops and getting away with it. How many cop killers that they've let walk?
Come on. Remember that black cop who was a cop that Chappelle was talking about.
Christopher Dorner.
400 of them. Yeah, 400 of them went after him.
Christopher Dorner.
All the people in New York, manhunts. They take him down. I want to read something real quick.
Please.
Okay.
I want to talk about the disparity. And so my friend posted something and I reposted it with a picture. And it said, imagine you're playing a board game with a friend. She's not a cheater. She means you no harm. But the rules of the game let her roll twice every turn. And you have to roll a 4 or higher for your roll to even count. That's systematic injustice. Your friend may not see it. She may get really offended if you call her a cheater. She's playing by the rules, and she has learned them. The game is rigged, though. After a while, she's bound to start thinking of herself as smarter than you. She may start thinking of you as bad at the game. You're beyond help. That's what systematic racism is like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
because it's not equal.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I see a video, I've seen two today, you're going to tell me because of white privilege. I'm like, we're not saying your life wasn't hard. But the whole thing is the color of your skin keeps certain things from happening to you in this country. And until you realize that, you don't get it because you don't understand it. Most of the country, like, I know people who didn't see a black person until they went to college.
Yes.
And so,
yes. Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot of them. And so, a lot of people talking about the hood on the internet. I'm kind of off the internet right now. I post and leave because a lot of people are coming out of their mouth about something they don't know. I don't talk about Iowa. I don't talk about Kansas. Why? I don't know about it. How are you talking about the hood? You never lived there. You won't even come there.
Some of them won't even. They're fighting to get out their car. They're just driving right by. They're like, no. You can't go there. No.
As soon as they see it, click, locks on all doors.
Mm-hmm. They're terrified.
But you want to talk about how it is. You don't know how it is. I don't talk about what I don't know. But it seems everybody has an opinion, whether informed, uninformed, but these things have really happened to people. And with this situation, more horror stories have come out of people I love who I didn't even have a clue those things happened to them. But that's how it is. That's been our existence from day one.
Yeah.
Especially on Staten Island. Gosh, Staten Island is like, if I was a kid, there was a A&P on the edge of Rosebank. So I'm in Park Hill with my friends, walking to Rosebank to get groceries for their mom. And these white kids start chasing us and they tell me to run. I live in West Brighton, so I don't know. So I'm out. Right, that's all you got to tell me. And we're running with bags and stuff. And we got to get to a certain invisible line because then they get scared because we're buying groceries. And in Park Hill also, before the post office where was down over there near Park Hill, it used to be a fine fair. How come?
I remember that. Yeah.
How come police used to, we're not animals, but y'all used to take kids behind fine fair and beat them up all the time, and then leave them.
Wow. Yeah. See that? Yeah.
It happened to my friend. And the cop said, I said, I'm not from this neighborhood. I said, touch me, all hell will break loose. Because he don't know where I'm from,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I got them out of it. But, it happened to him when I wasn't there. Cop came back and retaliated against him. Your friend ain't here now. Took him behind fine fair and beat him up.
Wow.
These are things we grow up with on the regular. And it's like, it's a militarization. The police are militarized against black people.
Always have been. Yeah.
Always
like
been.
Have been.
Like the Gaza Strip. I'll just say that. And that's where I'll leave it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. It's systematic oppression on purpose. because, they want to get you a record. They want you to do the thing. I went to court, criminal court, for a noisy muffler in New York City. I had to get a lawyer. I was working in childcare because in childcare in New York, there's no forgiveness. Anything gets on your record, your career is over. Dudes came for my livelihood in New York City.
Wow.
Mr. asking for respect and treat like a thug or animal. I ain't even a thug. I'm a nerd. Please.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, in front of my legal residence on Staten Island, which was upstairs above a church, because I'm driving home, and you're gonna follow me, then you stop following me, then you pull up behind me. Then I call for the kids in the neighborhood to get my family, so he can't do nothing. So he gets mad and gives me a summons to criminal court. Just pay it off. I can't pay it off.
Yeah.
You've attacked my livelihood. And that's what they do. They get you a record and you can't do nothing in New York. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 3-strike system by Giuliani, who's lying to you still, who cheated on everything he's ever loved.
Exactly. But this is people that what we understand. This is the things that we went through growing up in neighborhoods in New York City.
Yeah, imagine other
yeah.
places that are worse. Imagine living in the South. I had one summer where I ran into something like visiting my grandma, and I didn't even say nothing, and I got hit, but I didn't tell nobody because I'm the guy from out here, and I didn't even say nothing. I'm like, people, everyone's looking because I didn't even say anything. I didn't, I'm like, you just want to mess with somebody. You just want to get, and then you want to get a reaction after you've done them wrong to try to be justified. And the whole thing is, I've learned to keep my cool because it can cost you your life. Every time I get pulled over, it could be a life or death situation. It's not that for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we see the difference is that when we get pulled over, we don't know if we're gonna live to see the next day.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. When you are stopped on the street, it's a difference. We don't. You see, when white folks, when some of the lighter skinned people or white folks are stopped on the street, they don't think about, I'm not gonna live to see the next day. They don't think about that. Or when they're tussled down by the police, they don't think about, I see my life flash in front of my eyes.
Right.
They don't think about that like how we think about it. With us is us. We don't know if we're gonna see the next day.
Exactly. It's serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up. So we want to make sure that we make the point clear is that we're not against police. We're just against police brutality. And if a police officer, just like them officers in Atlanta, decided almost, hundreds of them wanted to call out sick because the one officer got held accountable. The argument of bad apples being a 10% thing and the good apples are the other 80%, it's hard to make that argument when you have hundreds of officers equaling up to about 50% of the police force saying that they're not going to come in today because they don't feel they could do their job. Yeah, that defeats your whole bad apples only being 10% and everybody else is good. Because if you're a good cop, then why are you calling out sick because another cop is being accountable for what he did wrong? So that whole blue wall of silence is some garbage. I don't want to hear nobody say. I don't want to hear nobody say nothing about that. So, Zacchaeus, any closing statements?
All I would say is that we gotta teach our young people coming up to what to do, what to say when they're confronted with the police. But even that, sometimes that is not even enough, because even with that, you're still like your life is in danger still. Yeah. So So we gotta be we just gotta be diligent and vigilant, and be able to build each other up, and embrace each other more than ever before. I guess we gotta think back to how the civil rights movement did it. Embrace each other like we ever did before. So we gotta do that. We gotta go back to that. So that's my last statement.
Cinema Escapes. Any last words?
Right. Don't leave. If you see somebody pulled over or something and you're nearby, don't leave. Just look. If you can film, don't leave them. Because if you leave them, it could be the end.
Yes.
I hear that.
Oh, yes.
It's so real. There's a story of a professor where they pulled him over. He has his school ID on, and the cops were harassing him, and the lady just stayed there for him. He thanked him. He had to teach a class, but he was rattled. And this is a decorated professor with no record.
Wow. See?
Just getting harassed when he's going to lunch.
See?
It doesn't matter. It's like when they pulled the government official over who was in charge of the police. Dude's harassing his boss. Came in the next day, didn't have a job. The whole thing is, I want to be judge, jury, and executioner in that moment. That's not your right. You're supposed to bring them in for due process. You are not that portion of the judicial leg of government.
Fast.
It's like my man got executed. He got judged by that cop. He never got to face a judge. George Floyd never got to face a judge. And people who weren't even, they didn't get justice because you don't have an opportunity because you're dead. Because that cop decided to make the decision there on the fly. Would you be angry if I took your kid and slapped your kid and disciplined your kid in front of you? It's not my right. It's not their right to execute judgment when they're supposed to arrest you and then due process begins. Arrested, take a statement. He doesn't get to have a statement. He got murdered. So you want to talk about justice? Where is the justice in that? It's not justice. This guy got to make the decision, and you want to support this guy making a decision he has no legal right to do.
Right. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say, and I'm going to repeat the words of the late, great Dick Gregory. The question was asked, how do you reform a cop? You pass legislation that every police officer, his person, his gun has to get insured.
Yep.
Meaning, if he has areas of misconduct and a company cannot insure him as a police officer, then he can't be a cop.
He's done.
When a cop is insured, other parts of that legislation is that when he kills an unarmed citizen, not just black, but unarmed citizen, unruly, like most times, there needs to be something in legislation that says if you do this, ... will happen. He has to decide whether he hates me so much that he's willing to throw away his life, his career, and his pension that he has worked for.
Exactly.
You got to put that in legislation. And if America truly cared about true police reform and holding those accountable who commit police brutality, they could have passed legislation a long time ago. They could pass it today. They could end police brutality today. They can.
Yep.
If they really cared on a federal level, Congress, the one that's in there, not the ones they say we got to vote for because they always do this every time election time comes around. They tell us to go vote, and then we vote whoever in, and then we go, and it goes back to business as usual, nothing happening, and once again, still fighting for civil rights, human rights.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that has to stop. So that's what I mean when I say defund the police. Zacchaeus, where can they reach you?
Yo, you can reach me on at Facebook, Wayne Zacchaeus Bacchus on Facebook. You can also reach me on Twitter. That's Wayne Bacchus 2 on Twitter. That's at Wayne Bacchus 2 on Twitter. Also on Instagram, Zacchaeus B73 on Instagram. Yes, so blessed love, y'all.
Cinema.
You can reach me at Cinemascapes Music on Instagram and Facebook. Also Cinemascapes, Instagram and Twitter.
All right, y'all can reach me at The Fifth General on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's at The Fifth General, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This was another powerful episode of The Round Circle with your host, The Fifth General, Zacchaeus and Cinemascapes. We're going to see y'all next time, man. Peace.
Peace.